The Cursed Hostel. My name is Emily. This is an incident from my life that I can never forget. It happened in my girls' hostel. I won't reveal the name or the location, because even today, just hearing it sends shivers down my spine. The hostel was an enormous and intimidating building that rose above the city with more than 30 floors. From the outside, it looked perfectly normal. But the moment you stepped inside, you could feel it. The air was heavier, the silence deeper, almost as if the building itself carried a dark secret. I was given a room on the 23rd floor. From the very first day, I felt uneasy. I remember climbing the stairs and taking the elevator up, my suitcase in hand, and the higher I went, the stronger the feeling became, an unsettling awareness, as if someone was walking right behind me. I could almost hear footsteps that weren't mine. When I entered my room for the first time, I noticed something strange. It was a big room, with tall ceilings and a wide balcony overlooking the city. From there, you could see the glowing lights of the streets far below. Yet, despite the openness, the air inside, the room felt suffocating, heavy, almost like invisible shadows clung to the walls. That first night confirmed my fears. When the lights went out, I couldn't sleep. It felt as though someone was staring at me, watching me intently from the darkness. The faint sound of wind whistling through the corridor mixed with something else, a presence. It was as if someone stood behind me, breathing slowly, quietly, waiting. Every time I closed my eyes, the fear grew stronger. My heart would race, and my skin would crawl. I wanted to turn around and look, but some deeper instinct held me back. It felt like if I ever dared to look, I would see something I was never meant to see. From the very beginning, this hostel didn't feel like a place to live. It felt alive, watching, waiting, and deep down, I knew something was wrong here. By the second week, I had started adjusting to hostel life, at least on the surface. I had two roommates, Sophia and Clara. They were cheerful, friendly girls who made me feel welcome. Their laughter often filled the room, and I thought maybe I was just overthinking things, letting my imagination run wild. But then, one night changed everything. It was late, perhaps past midnight. The city outside had gone quiet, and only the distant hum of traffic floated through the window. I drifted into sleep, but it wasn't a peaceful sleep. It was heavy, suffocating. In my dream, I saw Sophia and Clara. They weren't smiling. They weren't the friendly girls I knew. Their eyes looked cold, empty, and their hands reached for my throat. I felt their fingers tightening, pressing harder and harder as I gasped for air. I tried to scream, but in the dream, no sound came out. I struggled, clawing at their hands, but the more I fought, the tighter their grip became. My vision blurred, and just before everything went dark, my eyes snapped open. I was awake. My heart was racing, sweat dripping down my forehead. I sat up in bed, breathing heavily. I turned my head and froze. Sophia and Clara were both asleep. Their breaths were calm and steady, their faces peaceful. It was just a dream, wasn't it? But then, my eyes caught something. In the dim glow of the corridor, light slipping through the curtains, I saw her. A womanly figure standing in the balcony, still, silent, watching. She didn't move for a moment, but I could feel her eyes on me. My body turned cold, paralyzed with fear. I couldn't look away. And then, without a single sound, she jumped right off the balcony. For a second, my mind refused to believe what I had just witnessed. My chest tightened, and then I let out a scream so loud it shook the room. Sophia and Clara woke up instantly, panicked, asking me what happened. But I couldn't answer. My hands were trembling as I pointed toward the balcony. My breath was shallow. Tears stung my eyes. I had seen it. Someone had jumped. I didn't know then that this was just the beginning. Sophia and Clara rushed toward me, their eyes wide with confusion and fear. "What happened, Emily?" Clara asked, her voice trembling. "There's someone." Someone was on the balcony. I pointed with a shaking hand. "She jumped, she really jumped." Both of them glanced at each other, then quickly moved toward the balcony door. My legs felt like stone, but I forced myself to follow. My heart was hammering so loudly it drowned out every other sound. Together, we stepped out into the balcony. The cold night air brushed against my skin, raising goosebumps all over my body. The city stretched below us, distant lights flickering like dying stars. I leaned forward, gripping the railing with trembling hands, and stared down into the darkness. Nothing. The ground was empty. No figure, no body, no trace of anyone. For a moment, I thought maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was just another dream bleeding into reality. I turned to Sophia and Clara, ready to say something, when suddenly, I felt it, a force, cold, invisible hands against my back. Something shoved me hard. I screamed as my body lurched forward, my balance tipping dangerously over the edge. The world seemed to slow down. The lights below spun in dizzying circles. I could almost feel the air pulling me down, calling me into the abyss. At the very last second, Sophia grabbed my wrist. "Emily," she shouted, straining to pull me back. Clara clutched my other arm, their combined strength yanking me away from the edge. I collapsed onto the floor of the balcony, gasping, my chest heaving violently. My roommates were pale, their faces stricken with shock. "Emily, what the hell was that? Did you slip?" Clara asked. But I knew I hadn't slipped. I knew what I felt. That push wasn't an accident. It wasn't me losing balance. Something wanted me to fall. Something that didn't want me alive. The three of us sat there in silence, the night pressing in around us. None of us spoke another word, but deep down, I could tell we were all thinking the same thing. Something was in this hostel, and it had noticed me. After that night on the balcony, sleep became almost impossible for me. Every creak of the wooden floorboards, every rustle of the curtains made my skin crawl. Even in daylight, I felt a presence around me as if unseen eyes were always following my every move. Sophia and Clara tried to comfort me, saying it must have been my imagination. But deep inside, I knew better. What I felt on that balcony was real. The force that shoved me was real. And soon, more horrors followed. The hanging figure. One evening, I returned to the room earlier than usual. The corridor was unusually silent, my footsteps echoing against the walls as I unlocked the door. The room was dark. Only faint light from the balcony slipped in through the curtains. As I stepped inside, I froze. There hanging from the ceiling fan was a shadowy figure, a rope tied around its neck, body swaying gently as if moved by an invisible breeze. I couldn't breathe. My throat tightened, and my heart slammed against my chest. The figure's head tilted slightly, as if it was aware of me, as if it was watching me even in death. My hand shot to the light switch. I flicked it on. The room flooded with light, and the figure was gone. The fan spun slowly empty, making a low humming sound. The rope wasn't there. Nothing was there. My knees gave out, and I sat on the floor, shaking uncontrollably. The suffocating nights. But the nightmare didn't stop there. Almost every night afterward, I began to experience something terrifying. I would wake up in the middle of the night, unable to move. My body felt paralyzed, my chest heavy, and then it would start the sensation of something pressing down on me, like invisible hands pinning me to the bed. Some nights it felt like a pillow was being forced against my face, suffocating me. I would struggle to breathe, tears rolling down my cheeks, my voice trapped in my throat. No matter how hard I fought, I couldn't scream, I couldn't move. People call it sleep paralysis, but this was different. This wasn't just my mind playing tricks on me. I could feel it, something malicious was holding me down, feeding on my fear. When the episodes ended, I would sit up gasping for air, my heart pounding so loudly I thought it would burst. Across the room, Sophia and Clara slept peacefully, completely unaware of the horror unfolding only a few feet away. The truth about the hostel. It was around this time that I overheard some older students whispering in the corridor. Their words made my blood run cold. They said that every 1 or 2 months, someone in this hostel committed suicide, sometimes by jumping from the balcony, sometimes by hanging from the ceiling fans. Nobody ever knew why. Some blamed stress, others depression, but the way they spoke, it sounded like they believed something darker was at play. And now, I was beginning to understand. The nightmares, the figure on the balcony, the invisible push, the suffocating nights. It wasn't just in my head. This hostel had a secret, and I was slowly becoming a part of it. That evening felt different from the start. Ever since sunset, I couldn't shake the unease in my chest. A strange dread had settled over me, a feeling that something terrible was about to happen. Sophia and Clara went to the canteen for dinner. I told them, "I'm not hungry today. You guys go ahead." They left, and I was alone in the room. The room was wrapped in darkness. Only the distant city lights filtered through the balcony, casting faint shadows across the floor. I tried to distract myself by reading a book, but my mind wouldn't settle. Every creak in the corridor, every whisper of wind through the window, made me jump. Then, I felt it. A cold, suffocating presence. The scarf incident. Suddenly, something wrapped tightly around my neck. My own scarf. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but within seconds, the pressure confirmed the terrifying truth: someone, or something, was strangling me with my own scarf. I clawed at it desperately, but invisible hands held it tighter. My chest burned, my vision blurred, and my body shook uncontrollably. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. It felt like death itself was only seconds away, saved at the last moment. Just then, the door flew open. Sophia and Clara returned from the canteen, panic on their faces. "Emily," Sophia shouted, flicking the light switch on. The room flooded with light. The scarf fell loosely to the bed, and the presence vanished. Everything looked normal, yet my whole body was drenched in sweat, shaking, and my throat still hurt from the invisible grip. Sophia and Clara pulled me into a tight hug. "What happened? Are you okay?" they asked, fear in their eyes. I knew the truth. What I had felt was real. Someone or something had tried to kill me. Decision to leave. After that night, I knew I couldn't stay another second in that hostel. The next morning, before the sun even rose, I packed my things silently and left. I walked out without telling anyone, my heart still racing. I had survived, but I also knew one thing. Leaving the hostel didn't mean the nightmare was over, because only a few weeks later, something even more horrifying would happen. I thought leaving the hostel would bring me peace. I thought I had escaped the nightmares, the shadows, the invisible hands that tried to strangle me. But I was wrong. Just a few weeks later, I received the news that made my blood run cold. Clara had committed suicide. The same hostel, the same building where I had barely survived. I couldn't believe it at first. I sat frozen, my phone trembling in my hands. How could this happen? She was cheerful, lively, full of life. Why would she end her own life? Later, I spoke to Sophia, hoping she could give me answers. She told me quietly, her voice tight with fear, that after I left, Clara began experiencing the same things I had: the shadowy figures, the pushes, the suffocating pressure at night. She didn't take it seriously at first, thinking it was her imagination, but the terror became impossible to ignore. The same hostel that had haunted me had now claimed someone else. And it wasn't over. Sophia told me that every time something terrible happened there, the building seemed to feed off fear. It whispered to the girls, lingered in the dark corners, and found its next victim. I realized with horror that I had been right all along. The dreams, the balcony, the push, the scarf around my neck. It wasn't just my imagination. The hostel had a life of its own, a dark presence that thrived on fear and death. And now, I was left with the truth. Leaving didn't mean I escaped. The hostel had marked me, and the memory of those nights would haunt me forever. Even now, I can't forget the fear, the suffocating nights, and the shadowy figure that once stared at me from the balcony. I can never forget the sound of Claire's scream, or rather, the scream I imagined before it ended. The horror I experienced wasn't just a nightmare, it was real. And the cursed hostel is still out there, waiting for its next victim. Even after I left, the memories of that hostel never left me. Every shadow in a dark room, every creak in the floorboards, every sudden chill, my mind immediately went back to those nights. I learned from Sophia that after Claire's death, more strange events started happening. Other girls reported whispers in the corridors, objects moving on their own, and that same suffocating, invisible pressure at night. But the girls who stayed often dismissed it, calling it imagination, stress, or coincidence. I, however, knew the truth. The hostel was alive, in a way no one could explain. It fed on fear, loneliness, and despair. It had claimed Clara. It had almost claimed me. And it would continue to claim others, slowly, silently, until no one dared to stay there alone. Sometimes when I close my eyes, I see her, the shadowy figure on the balcony, staring down at the city below. Sometimes I still feel the push behind me, the weight on my chest in the middle of the night. I survived. But survival doesn't erase what you've seen, what you felt. The hostel's horror became a part of me, a memory burned into my soul. And I know, somewhere in that massive, abandoned building, the darkness still waits. It waits for the next girl who dares to enter, the next unsuspecting soul to mark, the next scream that will echo through its endless halls. I escaped, but the curse of the hostel, that will never leave me. Did you enjoy the story? Let us know in the comments. And if you liked it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to The Horror Dream. Want more stories like this? Subscribe to The Horror Dream, and we'll bring you more darkness, just for you. If you enjoy a little chill down your spine, stick around, like, share, and hit that subscribe button, right here on The Horror Dream. Your support keeps us going, so stay with us. Subscribe to The Horror Dream for more spine-tingling tales.